Hey everybody, this is Kohdok here, and today we're going to be talking about the Power Rangers Legacy Thunder Megazord. Now this is the special prize I won from that raffle drawing that happened at Toy Fair at the Bandai booth that I talked about before, and no joke, this thing really did arrive on my birthday while I was filming my birthday review, which was actually kind of a funny coincidence. Now, a quick disclaimer before I go any further, I was the perfect age for Power Rangers when it first came out. However, I was that kind of guy who was like, oh, it's something that a lot of other people talk about, but I didn't really get into, and yet a friend of mine owned the Megazord, the original Season 1 Megazord, and it was really friggin' cool. But on the other hand, I was the kind of guy who was more into like Transformers and Legos at that point, so not really the kind of thing for me, so I won't really have the most, insightful viewpoint on this, but hopefully I'll be able to stay objective. I've done a bunch of research on the original Thunder Megazord that came out. Anyway, the Power Rangers Legacy series are a bunch of toys that are designed to be highly detailed and really high quality but very nostalgic recreations of the big Zords from the original Power Rangers that came out over 20 years ago. In this case, it is the Season 2 Thunder Megazord, which can also be called the Dairen-Oh from its Japanese series, Gosei Sentai Dairanger. Although, it's a bit of a shame that they kind of rolled this over into the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers rather than importing Dairanger, because, come on, every Ranger in that series was the White Ranger. Might as well start with the box. It's a big, fancy box with the Thunder Megazord detailed in a nice foil print, and on the back, it not only shows off the different Zords, it also shows off the complete Thunder Megazord, as well as the Thunder Tiger Ultra Zord, or the Mega Tiger Zord, that's what it's called. So, yes, if you have the Legacy White Tiger Zord that's already been out for some time, it is completely compatible with that. So, this is the Thunder Megazord Attack Team, or as I like to call it, the best way to display the Thunder Zords. Now, it is a lot like the original in that the Thunder Zords all clip onto a special plastic tray, which holds them all in formation. They are all held onto this tray, however, unlike the original, the tray doesn't have any wheels on it, although that is mainly because this is intended to be a collectible and not really something you play with and roll around for its action features. It also contains a couple of special clips that are important in making this thing compatible with the White Tiger Zord. Now, in general, we can just kind of look at the high quality of this series here. For instance, the Thunder Zord sword actually comes on this large metal chain, although I know it's not technically available in this mode. It's just the best way to hold it. Also, a lot of the detail on here that in the 1994 edition was rendered with decals, in this case is rendered with a lot of really detailed and well-executed paint jobs. That is really where you're getting your money's worth out of this set. Anyway, this is the Thunder Zord Assault Team. It's pretty straightforward, and with the Red Dragon here, you can raise his staff, although that goes out of frame, but he can hold it above his head and spin it in the air in the helicopter mode like you see it. Everybody clips in rather well, except for maybe the Red Dragon Zord. He just kind of stands in it, and you have to hope and position his feet well enough. And this is the Green Lion Zord. The Green Lion Zord, like a lot of the other Thunder Zords, isn't really known for its flexibility. It doesn't have much going on in the way of posability. However, it does have some die-cast metal on the feet here. On the rear of the feet, this is, I can tell it's cold die-cast metal, as well as holding the helmet to the Thunder Zord, which actually has a couple of cool features to it. It is a pretty simple thing. It forms the shoulders and the chest of the final Thunder Zord, although one thing they did change was the chest plate here. The top of the Lion Zord, also the chest plate of the Thunder Megazord, is, while the original had a pop-out cockpit, this is just a simple jewel on the front here. Now, that's perfectly fine, it still looks pretty good, but this actually has the fact of making the back of the Lion Zord a whole lot lighter, and that's actually going to be real important coming up. But aside from that, it has all of that lovely detail. It has a really good color. It actually has a less brassy gold than I'm used to seeing on a lot of the Power Ranger stuff. It actually has a very decent amount of orange tint to it. It looks very, very nice with this sort of orange gold, especially against the sharp green they've put it against. It is a very, very attractive member of the Thunder Zords. Now, the Unicorn and Griffin I'm going to be reviewing together because, again, these are the Thunder Zords. They're not really known for their articulation. The Thunder Megazord is very much a bunch of parts designed to create a whole. They don't have a lot of fun action features like you might see with Dino Charge or even with the original Power Rangers. In this case, it is pretty much limited to a bit of neck articulation with the head. The head can be thrust forward and raised, although I guess in the case of the Griffin, it doesn't quite flex as far forward. Although, you know, that's fine. It's a Griffin. I think it's actually supposed to be a Keelin in the original, and this kind of more resembles a Pegasus with the wings there, but, you know, Unicorn and Griffin, I can dig that. Again, it has a lot of the very, very lovely, very sharp detail on the paint that would normally be rendered with a decal. The really sharp colors that they've managed to get on here are actually very attractive, and they really have a lot of really good pop to them, and that's something I really like about this set. And the Red Firebird. The Red Firebird, or Pink Firebird, depending on how you see it, it's another pretty straightforward one, although it does have a bit more posability than normal, although again, this is to facilitate the transformation gimmick. It can raise and lower its head, you can change the trim of its wings, it can go kind of flap them, and it has the tailpiece. Now, unlike the tailpiece from the original, it doesn't have a bunch of, you know, thinned out molding here. It's all one very thick, robust piece, although it does not have the feet that you would get that are kind of important to attaching it to the Tiger Zord. Instead, that is something that comes on the base plate of the Assault Zords. So this is the base plate of the Assault Zords. Like the other Zords, it doesn't have any wheels on them. The Griffin and Unicorn didn't have any wheels on them either, because again, this is something for display that you don't want rolling all over the place. It is instead a pretty simple plastic tray that has slots for all of the Zords in it, and these slightly darker parts, if you can tell here, are actually what are needed to attach the Firebird and the Lion to the White Tiger Zord. So it's not quite as difficult to attach things to the White Tiger Zord as it might have been in the original. And here is the Red Dragon Zord in its humanoid form. Now, it is very, very reminiscent of the one from 1994 in that it has the staff and all the little bells and whistles, although in this case the staff is a bit larger so that it looks a bit better on the Thunder Zord. Also, the head can turn. The head actually can be posable, something that wasn't in the original. A lot of the posability is still the same. It still has the opening and closing fingers, and although it loses the knee joints in favor of looking a little bit more streamlined, it doesn't really bend at the knee, although there's a reason for that, and I'll get into that a bit later. It still has all the normal flexibility, although a lot of what is so good about this sort of series is that all of this detail that you can see on the legs here is rendered in the paint, and the paint is actually surprisingly high fidelity. It looks like it ought to be a decal with how well it's rendered, but no, this is all nice sealed paint. It also stands pretty well. It's not too unsteady, even though the feet are actually kind of convex, which you'd think would make them a bit unstable, but really it only feels kind of unstable when it's used in the Assault team. Now, its transformation gimmick is pretty much exactly the same as the 1994, so it should be pretty familiar. You, of course, remove the head, although in this case you don't actually have to fold the jaw up before attaching it. You remove the tail, and you roll the backpack back over so it covers this part up there. You rotate the arms so that it becomes the arms and legs of the dragon mode. Like I said, very familiar territory. Let's flip that around now so that you can then flip the legs. And the legs, just like before, you can tell which one is the head and the tail because the head has that notch there, and the tail actually has a part where the tail piece folds out, making it the place where you attach the tail fin you removed earlier. And of course the head transforms like the original. You fold it back into the dragon head, raise the fins a bit, and it just clips right on. And there we have the completely transformed Legacy Red Dragon Zord. Or so you thought. This Legacy Red Dragon Zord actually has one more trick up its sleeve that sets it apart from the original. Remember how I talked about it now lacked knee articulation? That was to make room for this. The legs and tail are now completely articulated so that it can simulate that cool flying motion you might have seen it make in the show where it undulates its neck and tail. It now can totally mimic that. Although I guess when it's completely unfolded it may be a bit limp, but no, it still looks pretty good in this mode. It's a very attractive sort of gimmick, and it definitely looks a lot nicer. And man, this thing is actually pretty big. It is by far the largest Zord in the set, and I guess that's fitting seeing as it's the central component, but No, as the Dragon Zord, it is very, very good looking, and I really love the fact that you can mimic that motion. It can move its head side to side and up and down, and I really love the fact that the foot here kind of becomes the extra spine. I haven't actually looked at the Thunder Zord before, but of course the jaw opens and closes. It still has the finger articulation that it shares with its original, although perhaps one problem is that the flap that forms the backpack doesn't actually lock in place. It just kind of flies open. There's no clip or anything, so I kind of wish there was a better way to hold that backpack in place, but otherwise I really have no complaints. So let's talk transformation. Like I said, the Legacy Megazord series are designed to be extremely nostalgic, so for the most part, the transformation method is largely the same as it was. You turning the legs and the arms here, and of course you prepare the Pegasus and Griffin Zord by folding them into the boots. Form feet and legs kind of very, very Voltron style, and the Voltron's getting a remake, by the way, as I've already mentioned on my channel, but everything is pretty simple and straightforward. You can tell which end the spines go into, just like the 1994 edition. They go straight in, and there he is with his feet. Now, the Firebird transforms the same way. You remove the tail, which then goes onto the spear to form into the completed javelin for the Thunder Megazord. And using the small gray clips on here, it attaches to the back and comes around the side to form the skirt. And this skirt also holds the mount for the sword, which I will go into some more detail later. A couple of slots there hold it in place, and of course we have to finish our adornments with the Lion Zord. Now first, the Lion Zord comes apart. The chest piece here, the chest piece here comes with, it has the flaps that open just like the original, which then goes straight onto the body. And like I said, it's a whole lot lighter, which means it doesn't really have the forward heavy problem as before. A lot of the die-cast metal is instead focused on the center portions in order to keep it more stable. So, we also have the arms, which go on pretty simply. They clip onto the large bolts on the shoulder there once the hands are inserted. Although these have some of the die-cast metal, so they have an influence on the balance as well. And finally, we have the helmet. Now, the helmet actually has kind of a cool little feature in that it only attaches if you have the visor up. So you have to have the visor up to attach it on over the clips, and then it slams down. Not sure if that's like the TV show or not, but I'll post a clip if it is. And thus we have our finished Thunder Megazord. Now, this thing actually looks really good, especially with all the eye-popping colors. Everything feels a lot more accurate. The way that everything is held together using the lighter chest piece means that it is a lot more stable, although I guess it is still a little bit wobbly with the feet here, unfortunately. However, like I said, it now has the spear. The spear looks perfectly proportioned to it now. It doesn't look silly at all, and like with the 1994 edition, it grasps it with its hand, although, again, this thing has rather limited articulation as a Megazord. A lot of combiners kind of share this problem. It really only bends at the head, which is still kind of cool. It also bends at the shoulders, but not really anywhere else. That is a little bit of a wasted opportunity, if you ask me. This is like the super hyper new edition of the toy, but they couldn't get any more, any additional articulation into it in an age where we have like all these super fancy, super articulated Optimus Primes. But I guess that's a nitpick. Like I said, it's supposed to be something that invokes nostalgia by having it transform exactly the same way, and it certainly does that admirably. Although, one thing that is very nice is not only does this sword have a metal chain on it, but the inside of it is chrome, bop, bop, bebop. Yes, very, very nice looking chromed up sword with the big handle and the rather familiar Gosei symbol on the front. There's a reason it's called the Gosei Morpher, is that it kind of shares this look here. But it holds the sword just like it holds the spear. So here is the fully equipped Legacy Thunder Megazord, complete with the sword and the spear. So, as you can tell, there are quite a few improvements over the original Megazord with this. It is a lot more stable. It's not as forward heavy, although, again, it doesn't really have any additional posability, but that is because this thing is meant to be, you know, a collector's display item that is all about the nostalgia, and it does that really well. It has very good eye-popping colors. The plastic feels pretty good, although if I have to say there's any problems with it, I do wish that the connections on it were a bit stronger. It feels a little bit flimsy and a little bit noodly with the way the legs are attached in here. I'm looking at some of the videos of the 94 one, and everything looks like it snaps really well into place, and I kind of wish that this set reflected that. They're asking $200 for this. It might be worth half that, if only for the fact that there's so much lovely painted detail on this and some additional features. Like I said, the posable head, which gives it more articulation than the original one did. It is very much a collector's piece. Maybe not as iconic as the original Megazord, but it still looks very nice from pretty much every angle. No matter how you look at this, this thing is a pretty good beauty. So I'm glad I had the chance to really show this off. So yeah, it's definitely a fun thing to have, although maybe it's something that you might want to wait for. So that's the Legacy Thunder Megazord, my special gift from Bandai, my birthday present / raffle prize, and until next time, this is Kohdok signing off.